The point is I'm a pointillist, and so pointillists, you make up the paintings out of little specks of color, and you eat one color and then another, and then in the end you have a painting, So every song I record is a dab, a speck of color on a large canvas. And I've been conscious that this is the way music career should be done since the 70s. And everything I do is related and is part of this, as a speck of color on a large canvas. In the state of Montana, year Ford, 1954. People are leaving, they're driving all night. Women are crying, they're frozen in light, and we roll on river, roll on river, roll on the river, roll on the river. Our river is black, our river is deep. If I'm writing on the melodeon, I usually have a kind of an idea of something. I have a phrase or I have an idea. Once you have something, then you have a problem to solve. And as long as you got a problem to solve, you're halfway home. Secrets to songwriting from David Thomas. Find a problem and solve it, and you're okay. I lived in America, and I moved over here in '84, and the only reason is just because family reasons. The thing that I always liked about Cleveland was, the nature of the environment, where you felt like you were on the edge of that underground sea that's at the bottom of the earth in the Jules Verne Journey to the Center of the Earth movie, It's that same thing where the clouds are like a low-hung stone ceiling and you're cut off from the rest of the world. I just, the fog does that, the grayness, the downs do that. It's a sense that I like. It's a sense that I grew up with, and I don't know, everybody likes seaside towns in the winter. The emptiness and the drabness contrasts with the holiday cheer. There's the sense of being at the edge of the continent that you get in LA, there's a sense of people have fled across the country or, fled from their own demons, as it were, across the continent to arrive, here where there's no further place to go. Backseat of oblivion mystery, I hang my head and I cry. Outside, night birds call, and early morning mist swoop through. I'm at the bridge, the river's enraged. I'm a bird, the bird is encaged. I'm a free man, just otherwise engaged. And I'm a fool. I'm a fool. I started a long time ago when I had dropped out of college, and I was interested in journalism, and I got a job doing art layout for a entertainment weekly paper, and like Time Out or something. And I was real good at it, and it's about 17, I think, and then they discovered that I was literate, so I became the copy editor. And then I got to be rewriting the copy so much that the editor said, well, why don't you just do some reviews yourself? It'll save us all a lot of time. And so I started doing reviews, and they needed a music reviewer, so I did music reviews. And I quickly developed some strong opinions about the way things should be. And I began to inflict these opinions, as all critics do, on the hapless groups that came my way. I began to feel guilty, and I thought, if I'm so smart, I ought to do this myself. So I started a band. What do we have here? What endless amount of garbage is in here? My life is in terms of bad photocopies. My life is contained in a series of bad photocopies without a whole lot of pictures. We never had here's a nice picture. I like this one because I look so much bigger than everybody else. Look how big I am. Look how big I am. No, look how big I am, and look how short these other guys are. This is my favorite picture of Pere Ubu. Can you see that well? Here's us in our first European show, 1978, in Brussels. There's me, playing the horn. Looking like a punk, of course, because we always wore suit and ties. There's Alan Ravenstein and Tony Mamoni playing. There's Marcus Porti, who took these pictures, so I guess he gets credit, finally, after all these years. Here's me looking angst-ridden. I think that picture's showing up somewhere else. I can't remember, though. There's Tom Herman looking young. There's Tom looking very young, sort of, for a steel worker. There's Tony looking young. There's me looking wet. And there's Alan. Nope, it's not original. It's Rough Trade Benelux. So, but if you want to pretend that it's original, it looks just like the original. That's the plaza where everybody lived, except Johnny added these two floors here don't exist. No, that floor doesn't exist, this does. So anyway, this is the apartment building that everybody lived at downtown in Cleveland. This is from the parking lot. Ravenna. Our lone Italian TV appearance in a circus tent in a dusty dirt square, and we played for 25 people, 12 of whom were Pakistani sailors who really enjoyed the show, and 12 or 13 were local Italians who really didn't enjoy the show at all. Here's a photocopy of our first appearance in New York, Easter Rock Festival. This is a show we never actually did. We were supposed to appear with Talking Heads Suicide, but for some reason we never appeared. That was a long time ago. Why didn't we play with them? You know, Talking Heads is the reason we got back together again in '79, because we'd broken up in '79, and Alan went to see Talking Heads play in Cleveland just to do something, and we were sitting there, and we both look at each other simultaneously and say, we were better than these guys. Which was very ungracious for me to bring up at this point, but I don't care. Oh, this is an extremely rare picture of the band from early 1976 when Alan wasn't the synthesizer. A very rare photo, if you can see there, of Dave Taylor, who was our synthesizer player while Alan wasn't in the group. Pere Ubu works on a system called dibs, that if you got the job first, you kind of got a right to have the job. But Alan was always, he was the landlord of the building everybody lived in, and I don't know, it was kind of tacky, but our usual method, the usual Pere Ubu method of dealing with trouble and tackiness is that we just break up, and then we reform the group without whoever we want to reform. It's really, really kind of, a roundabout way of avoiding reality. So we just broke up, and Peter at that point was falling apart. He was doing too many drugs and becoming extremely unreliable, and everybody wanted to get rid of him. Well, a year later. He was becoming a real pain in the butt, so we said, well, we're not going to sit around here and watch you kill yourself, so bye, basically. Here's Longhorn Bard, April 1st, 1978. Dan Seifert took these photos. Well, Dan, let's see what we got here. There's me in that jacket, again. There's me and the band in a typically arty shot, again. I knew that things were on the cusp of an evolution, that things were moving from something that had been established in the 60s and they're about to move into something else. And I also thought there was a great deal of image, because this was the beginning of the 70s was quite a period of excess in rock music, and I thought this was all very unbecoming and immature, and I thought all this posturing and nonsense was, and the Rolling Stones, who at that point were old, even then were old men, I thought this is really unbecoming, for grown-ups to act this way.
You would have thought, yeah.
You would have thought so. You want to jump up? Huh? I mean, this sounds big-headed, but we knew that what we were doing would change the face of music. Let's feed them beer. Let's feed them beer and really get the animal rights people really upset. The thing that always appealed to me about rock music was the fact that it was a folk form, and because it was a folk form of music, it bypassed all of the media priests and the social arbiters and all the establishment, and it gave the tools of art and mass art and mass communication to just ordinary slobs like me. Check. Check, test, and test, check. Check, test, and test, check. Now, why am I not getting it? The problem is what happens is you reset the thing, and all these little cables. It's going in there. It's getting there. That should be feeding in channel 1 or 2 here. Test, test. Ba, ba, ba. Check, check, test. Check, test, 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 check, check, test. Na, na. You know, all this music only exists for me as a singer. Without a singer, without a voice, there's no point to making music. All those Beethoven, Mozart types had been wasting their time and our time, all this time, because Edison hadn't invented the phonograph yet, and the microphone hadn't been invented. Once the microphone is invented, everything changes, and once the phonograph is invented, that technology changed the entire relationship of the human voice to the band. How did I do this? The voice, the singer, becomes the mediator of this whole social process. He becomes the focal point of not only the band's intentions, but of the audience's expectation. Instead of me, the singer, following the band and following their time, I wanted to shift everything so that all the musicians would follow the singer's time and the singer's vision of the world and the singer's space. So I thought, well, the way to do this is to strip everything down and just build it all up again. But in this project, it's all being built around me, and I am always right. Whatever key I'm in, that's right. Whatever time I'm in, I'm right. Kathleen, why don't you call my name? Kathleen, honey, call me. Track of time, blush of youth. I'm just a word that time forgot. Scared on both social sway, border chitty onion rings. And the check on time, please, miss, that you and the rolling rock, Kathleen. Why don't you call my name? Kathleen, I had to call me. I was brought up in a town in which there's a coastline, and you can't go any further north because there's the lake. It's a huge lake. It's almost an inland sea. So I've always liked places where you don't have to worry about one side of your life. like all creative Americans, I'm in pursuit of the great American novel. So what is the great American novel? Well, it has to do with the geography of America. The geography of America shapes everything that creative Americans do, because they have to come to terms with the notion of the manifest destiny. Now, in the turn of the last century, around 1820, there was something called the manifest destiny, which was that it was the destiny of the people in the eastern part of the continent to colonize the entire continent, to sweep forward across the continent and to, make the entire continent America. This great westward urge eventually meets the immovable Pacific object, the immovable Pacific Ocean. And there, this westward urge drops a certain kind of person who's made this journey, like a wave drops the stones out on the promenade here and retreats. Well, at that point, these people have to come to peace with the end of the continent. Places like Los Angeles, and to a smaller degree, Brighton interest me, because it's where people flee to, and people who are fleeing have any number of motives. It's sort of a place where you end up with lots of bit part actors that have a line, in soap operas every couple months, and you have people who are fleeing the big city, and for because they've become successful and they want to get out, or because they fear being in the limelight of the big city and having to deal with failure or success, and so they'd rather not deal with either, so they retreat. I think the land is a mirror. I think geography is a mirror, so you can show the geography, and therefore you're showing something about the people or the person of the story. So, I'm not a naturalist songwriter. I don't write about the geography. I write about people as reflected in the geography. The land's a mirror. I fear the things people may know, the stories they fit me into. I fear the times, the things, the notions only time shows. I'm aware of the dark. 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 I wear a dark suit. I wear a dark suit. Badly we will pass the time. How we pace through our ages, stare from the depths of our own separate cages. I'm aware of the dark. I'm aware of the dark. I'm aware of the dark. I'm aware of the dark suit. Oh, I wear a dark suit. I'm aware of the dark. I never had this prejudice about the Beach Boys as being some sort of inconsequential outfit. From the beginning, it was presented to me as, that this was pretty cool stuff, So, so later I came to an appreciation of Wilson. And all of Pere Ubu's history from the very beginning is littered with Brian Wilsonisms. Or, our third single was, the B-side was called My Dark Ages, parentheses, I Don't Get Around, which was our synthesis of Bob Dylan and Brian Wilson puns.
I have watched you on the shore, standing by the ocean's roar. Do you love me?
I've always was attracted to the raw poetry of it. I mean, the simple imagery of it. I've watched you from the shore, standing by the ocean's roar. I mean, it's just it's very stark and beautiful and distant and isolated, and the object of desire is always far off and surrounded in sound and surrounded in isolation. And then just the yearning of the middle bridge, and I will make your dreams come true. Do you love me? 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 And it's just, it's quite a piece of work, I think. It's quite a piece of work. Little surfer, little one, make my heart come undone. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me, surfer girl? I have watched you on the shore, standing by the ocean's roar. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? We can ride yourself together everywhere I know, and in my you borrow from each other, you develop from each other. The classic example in the 60s of all those groups, the Byrds, Beatles, Beach Boys, all these groups that were trying to top each other, one of them would put out an album and there'd be a little breakthrough here, and the next, that would spur the other group on to, and they'd make a little breakthrough, and so there's this is a folk methodology where you together, you as a sort of, not communal as in hippy dippy, but as a craft exercise, you move forward. Wilson was one of the major proponents of it. In the end, he created an album that doesn't exist, because the Smile album, it was never finished, and people like me and others who are really into the whole process, can get all the bootleg demos of the segments, and here's this segment, and that he was thinking of putting this one with this one, but he never did, but he was thinking about it. So the reason why it is he did achieve perfection was because he assembled the album in your head, out of all the parts, and you assemble it yourself in your head. And that is perfection, because it doesn't exist except in your head, which is the only place that sound exists. Don't worry, baby, it's no one we know. Don't worry, baby, it's nowhere that you and I would ever go. Stand by. Stand by. The human consciousness must have sense. So when you hear the fractured scale of a sound, your consciousness must come up with a solution as to why this sounds this way. And that's the whole power of music. That, in a nutshell, is what any self-respecting musician these days, unless you're a pop musician, is concerned with.
Did you ever consider yourself a pop musician?
I'm just not a very good pop musician. You know, this is, you know, people say, well, you know, what's the difference between you and Robbie Williams? Well, I'm not as good as he is frankly. I don't have his talent. And I'm perfectly happy to admit that.
But you have different talents, man.
No, I'm just not as good as he is at making pop music. You know, that's all right. I can handle it. I can handle not being good, you know. I'm just fortunate that there's a small group of people in the world that like what I do. Yeah. So the original song consisted of this banjo thing, this bass thing, this guitar thing, which has been since recut. This is now a Marshall, so it's not quite the original. And that trumpet. So you sit here, you know, in my little office, and I listen to this endlessly, you know, and I sit here and I study, and then you start somewhere. And where I started, the thing that I came up with was just, yeah. The whole key to the song was one idea, and that's usually it. You get, you get the idea, the one sound or expression, and then you ask yourself, well, what does that mean, you know, and what does that mean in context of the piece? And then you begin to pull the story from the piece out of the sound, you know, like a sculptor would pull a shape out of a block of marble. So I just went and recorded this. I had no idea. I set the microphone up. I was frustrated. I was tired of working with the thing, so I thought, well, I'll just play the thing and do something. People say, well, why do you they say, you sing for fun, you know, or why don't you sing for fun, or just give us a song. And it's like, you know, this is not fun, you know, for me. It's just, you know, no, it's my job. It's what I do. It's what I do well, but it's not fun. It hurts, you know, doing these. Anytime you do a show, you know, you're chipping off a piece of your life, and so. If you're really doing it, I mean, you know, anytime I perform, it's you know, you have to become the performance, and if it's a bad performance, then you become the badness of it. You know, then you really, you know, then you not suffer, but you become. If it's a bad experience, you become the bad experience. So it's kind of takes its toll on you after a while, and so it's not what you call fun. I don't like fun. It makes me nervous.
I knew I'd end up alone. Driving through the night, going somewhere lost, afraid to be found.
Go down to the pub at the end of the day or something. They say, "Oh, did you have a good day?" And you think, I don't know what I did, but I was working constantly. You know, I really don't do anything other than work. I've recorded more than 200 songs. I can't remember how many at this point. I'm becoming hysterical thinking of it. So that's 200 dots on the canvas. So you got to go down to that guy. That next time you're at the museum, right, the Rijksmuseum, you know, and they got that pointless guy in there somewhere. You go count how many dots are on that canvas. That's how many I got to go. I got a long way to go. This is a nightmare. I wish I'd never started. I'm becoming hysterical thinking of it. Only 200 dots. Oh well. Colonnaded ruins down canvas the town and brush the backdrop. Are you sleeping? Certain Americans come over here, now they adopt British pronunciations of things, like they go on schedule. You know, and your flesh crawls. It's schedule. You know, the moment I say schedule, they're authorized in my will to execute me.